We've all forgotten. Everyone's moved on. We just lost them. And it's like it never happened. It's like it never happened. We're not hearing from the families. Have you noticed that? They've just been brushed aside. Here they are, the heroes we lost in Afghanistan alive, and here they are dead in the back of that C-17. Something really strange happened when they were welcomed home. Joe Biden was overtly disrespectful, checking his watch. Now, the fake news, they're ignoring it or they're trying to fact check this out of existence, but facts are the facts. He checked his watch at least 3 times, and then he said some pretty offensive things to the families who were assembled. Joe Biden did not want to hear their stories of grief. He wanted to tell his own. And that deeply offended these families, some of whom who've gone on to social media to tell that story, and they've been blocked, they've been shadow banned, and of course ignored by the mainstream media. Now let's talk about Gold Star families. What they are, for the record, a Gold Star family, the immediate family members of a fallen service member who died while serving in a time of conflict. Joe Biden has tried to imply many times that he is part of a Gold Star family.
My son, who spent a year in Iraq and died, was a patriot.
Son spent a year in Iraq and died, was a patriot. Well, his son was a patriot, Bo. He served honorably in Iraq as a military lawyer while he was on leave from his job as Attorney General for Delaware. Perfectly honorable service. He came home. And 4 years later, he died of brain cancer. But Joe Biden, I think, dishonestly tries to imply at times that his son died overseas in conflict, which would make Joe a Gold Star family, which would make Joe somehow above criticism. He'd be just like those who lost their loved ones for real in combat. That's not the case. That's not the case. Have you noticed that the families of those fallen who are upset with Republicans can become superstars? Cindy Sheehan. I have no problem with Cindy Sheehan. A Gold Star family, a Gold Star mother can say whatever she wants. It's the media that exploits them for their own purposes. That's, quite frankly, they're the guilty ones here. She became a household name. All forgotten now. She was furious with George W. Bush over her son's death in Iraq. How about the Khan family? Remember them?
Donald Trump, you're asking Americans to trust you with their future. Let me ask you, have you even read the United States Constitution? I will gladly lend you my copy.
His son, Captain Khan, was killed in Iraq. And again, a Gold Star family, a Gold Star father can say anything they want. It's the Democrats who manipulated this family into appearing at the Democratic National Convention in 2016 so he could voice his displeasure with someone who, quite frankly, had nothing to do with his son's death, Donald Trump, who was a candidate, who was a businessman, who was not president of the United States. But the media, they weaponized this moment against Donald Trump, who they desperately wanted to stop.
Donald Trump decides to wage war against a Gold Star family.
Then he goes and trashes a Gold Star family. That's not comporting with nationalism.
He's gone after Gold Star family, Gold Star parents, while auditioning to be commander-in-chief.
No one knew a presidential candidate would attack a Gold Star family, as Donald Trump did last week.
Well, he didn't. You heard the cons were pretty tough on Donald Trump, and he just said they look like nice people. I wonder why the wife is being quiet here. They're fine people. They don't know me. And that was that. But you heard what they said about him. So these 13 names, these 13 Marines, a soldier, a sailor, we're really not hearing much from the family at all. A couple of posts on Facebook, but they have been just kind of pushed aside. Why? Because They desperately want you to forget this iconic image that we will never forget, the plane surrounded by those desperate people on its way out of Kabul, right? I can never forget this. Do they really think we will somehow forget? Joe Biden, again, desperately trying to change the subject. Here he is looking at flooded basements in Queens. Okay, that's in New York City. We had a problem. We've always had a problem with basements. They can flood. He still says, for the record, that this was a swell operation.
The extraordinary success of this mission was due to the incredible skill, bravery, and selfless courage of the United States military and our diplomats and intelligence professionals.
No, it wasn't, obviously to anyone who's basically 3 years old and up. And by the way, the mission is not over. We have an untold number of Americans who can't get out of the country. They're in airplanes or around airplanes. Details are very, very sketchy at this point, but they're still there. What are we doing to get them out? It's a little bit vague. Secretary of State Tony Blinken.
There's been a fair amount of confusion surrounding the flights, and let me just clarify a few things. As of now, the Taliban are not permitting the charter flights to depart. They claim that some of the passengers do not have the required documentation. While there are limits to what we can do without personnel on the ground, without an airport, with normal security and procedures in place, we are working to do everything in our power to support those flights and to get them off the ground.
What is that? Sending stern emails? I mean, we're powerless. We're powerless, thanks to you, thanks to Joe, those generals. Democrats are actually, some of them, speaking out. Blumenthal, the senator from Connecticut. I'm not a fan, but he says this. He's a Democrat, longtime Trump critic. I have been deeply frustrated, even furious at our government's delay in inaction. There will be plenty of time to seek accountability for the inexcusable bureaucratic red tape that stranded so many of our Afghan allies. But he goes on here. I expect the White House and State Department to do everything in their power, absolutely everything, to make this happen. These are American citizens and Afghans who risked everything for our country. We cannot leave them behind. But he did, didn't he? Joe Biden left them all behind. And he knew this was going to be a problem. He knew it. That phone call with Afghan President Ghani, he didn't really care about the reality. He only cared about the perception. Phone call, as reported by Reuters, Biden to Ghani. I need not tell you the perception that things aren't going well in terms of the fight against the Taliban. And there's a need, whether it is true or not, there is a need to project a different picture. This is a smoking gun, huge story. This attempted collusion on Joe Biden's part to tell a lie. Looks like Ghani wouldn't go there. Ghani wanted help and was asking for it. Didn't want to pretend that they were beating the Taliban. This story is very hard to find from Reuters. Even Reuters buried it. Take a look, if you would. If you go looking for this story, it will be at the very, very bottom of your news feed, if at all. Now, remember when Donald Trump had a controversial phone call with that Ukraine President Zelensky? The whole world was talking about it for about a year. And Donald Trump put out that statement, put out that transcript, rather, the whole record of that phone call. And here is the most damning part. You ready? He's not trying to get anybody to lie. He said, I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it. All right. He's talking about something he saw on television. Joe Biden, a few months before this phone call, caught on camera bragging about getting a prosecutor fired in Ukraine. Now, why would Joe Biden ever do that? Has he ever done that before? I keep hearing it was the policy of the United States government to do something like this, but who was in a perfect position to make it the policy of the United States government? Here's Joe Biden bragging about what sounds an awful lot like a quid pro quo.
I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting $1 billion. I said, you're not getting $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
If he was doing that because Hunter Biden's employer wanted it done, that is impeachable conduct. And it's not been fully investigated, not adequately investigated. And the stories of those Marines, soldiers, and sailors who were lost in Afghanistan has not been adequately told. We are privileged tonight to be hosting the father of Staff Sergeant Darren Taylor Hoover. 31 years old he was, from Utah, who died in that Kabul airport explosion. He'll join us shortly.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.